Good afternoon, Mr. Nqumse.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice.
May I find out whether I pronounced your surname correctly?
Yes, Chief Justice.
Okay, all right. How are you this afternoon?
I am fine, Chief Justice.
Thank you. We thank you for availing yourself for consideration for appointment as a judge of the Eastern Cape Division. I will ask you some questions, and after that, I will allow the judge president to ask you questions and the premier, and thereafter any other commissioner who may wish to ask you questions. I would ask you to do your best to give crisp answers. I know that's sometimes not easy, but I would like you to do your best to try and give crisp answers. The commissioners will do their best to ask crisp questions too. I see that in terms of academic qualifications, you hold a BProc degree and 2 diplomas. Is that correct?
Correct, Chief Justice.
And the one diploma is an advanced diploma in labor law, and the other one is a postgraduate diploma in criminal justice.
Correct,
Is that right?
Correct, Chief Justice.
And you obtained the BProc from the University of Fort Hare, and the advanced diploma in labor law you got at the University of Johannesburg, and the postgraduate diploma you got from the Nelson Mandela University. Is that right?
Correct, Chief Justice.
You started work as an admin clerk in the Department of Social Welfare Department, but later on you were appointed as a magistrate in 1994, is that right?
Correct, Chief Justice.
After working as a prosecutor for about, 4 years?
Around about 3 years, Chief Justice.
About 3 years. And when you were appointed as a magistrate in 94, that was a district court magistrate, is that right?
Correct, Chief Justice.
And later on, you were appointed to the regional court? Or not really?
No, Chief Justice.
Yes. As a magistrate, did you do both criminal and civil matters or only criminal matters?
I did both civil and criminal, Chief Justice.
Is that right from the beginning, or you only started doing civil after you had been a magistrate for some time?
I started to do civil work mostly from 1998, and then 2000 onward.
Yes. And the types of civil matters that you dealt with as a magistrate, what kinds of branches of law did they cover?
They covered a range of areas, Chief Justice, your applications, your delict, your liquidation, which I dealt with as well, summary judgments, urgent applications. It varied. It
Yes.
varied. The debtors court, which is Section 65 court. So it covered those vast areas, and of course, any other matter which was quasi-judicial.
Yes. And the rank that you are currently on, is it that of senior magistrate?
Correct, Chief Justice.
I see that you became a senior magistrate in 2000, is that correct?
Correct, Chief Justice.
It's quite a long time to remain on the same rank, isn't it? From 2000, that makes it 22 years, or does it not?
Yes, it's about 2000.
Yes.
It's 22 now.
Is there a reason why you haven't risen above that, or is the position that you haven't been applying for promotion, or what is the position? Or there are too few higher positions?
Well, that is also one reason. I had also acted in the regional court, but I think I dedicated most of my time in the work in the district court, which was a variety of work and giving me the opportunity to also deal with a number of areas outside my court where I was heading, which were your sub-offices, and which gave me an opportunity to really work with, I would say, Chief Justice, with those who are not so privileged to get the best quality of our court experience. So I think that has kept me content for most of my time.
So you say there are two reasons why you have stayed on the same rank for 22 years. One is there are not many positions that you could be promoted to above that of senior magistrate, and that you liked the work you were doing in the district court. Are those the two reasons?
Mainly, those are the two reasons, Chief Justice.
Yes. When you acted in the regional court, did you not like the work?
I did, Chief Justice.
Uh-huh.
I did like the work.
Uh-huh. But you chose not to apply for any positions in the regional court?
What happened soon after I've acted in the regional court, that is when I started acting stints in the High Court.
Yes.
And since then, which was 2018, I was more in the High Court with acting stints in the High Court.
Yes. About how many months have you acted in the High Court if you put all the time together? More or less.
It would be not less than,
Or weeks, whichever is easy for you to work with, weeks or months.
in 2018, I acted 3 terms.
Okay, terms is fine. 3 terms, you acted 3 terms.
In 2018. And then in 2019, I think I acted a term. In 2020, I acted a term in the Gauteng division.
So you have acted a number of terms.
Yes,
Yes.
Chief Justice, yes.
And when you were acting, you did both civil matters and criminal matters in the High Court?
Correct, Chief Justice.
Yes. And did you also do motion court in the High Court?
Correct, Chief Justice.
And how did you find the motion court in the High Court?
It's quite challenging, Chief Justice, but for someone who has at least the background in civil work, it was manageable because since my first stint and exposed to motion court in the High Court, I was able to manage it quite successfully. And since then, I had never had a problem in the motion court.
How many written judgments have you produced out of your acting stints in the High Court? more or less. You don't need to be exact.
They should be about, if I include the latest, they should reach the number about 60.
About 16 or 60?
60.
Or 60, okay. And that includes criminal and civil.
Correct, Chief Justice.
Have you sat on full bench appeals in the High Court as well?
Yes, I have a number of times.
Yes. And how have you found the full bench appeals?
Very interesting, because there you have, it's either you are two on the bench, or you are three on the bench, so you have different views on a matter, and that you must persuade each other, and especially where I have to scribe the judgment, wherein one has to persuade his or her colleagues to agree with your view. It's been quite interesting, and I have had that experience not once,
Yes.
where I had to convince my colleagues whom I'm sitting with on a
Yes.
full bench.
When you are sitting on appeal and you are considering an appeal against a decision of the lower court, which was taken in the exercise of a discretion, under what circumstances can you set aside the decision on appeal?
If the discretion that the presiding officer had applied is such that it is not a rational discretion, or it is a discretion which that is totally a application of that discretion, then the appeal court would set aside that discretion.
If it is a misapplication of that discretion,
Yes.
under what circumstances can you, sitting on appeal, interfere with factual findings made by a trial court?
The appeal court would, if it is clearly evident that the lower court had not applied or had not evaluated the facts correctly, and much as the appeal court would always find difficulty in doing so, because it did not have the advantage of the witnesses, their demeanor, and how they were coming across. But if the court looks at the findings and find that, look, there's been completely a misdirection in the way the evaluation was made on the findings of the witnesses, be they credible or incredible, then the appeal court would set aside those findings. As I say, Chief Justice, it's something that the appeal court would do very sparingly if we take into account even the latest judgment of Vodacom from the Constitutional Court, that the fact that the appeal court is not in the best position to have listened to the evidence and listened to the facts that were presented, the court would certainly have to find that even if it was not in that better advantage, but the trial court has not looked into these facts correctly.
Thank you very much. I will now give the Judge President the opportunity to put questions to you. Judge President.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Mr. Nqumse.
Good afternoon, JP.
Purely for the sake of completeness, you acted for the whole of the first term in 2018 in the Eastern Cape.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, JP. I confirm that.
And then you thereafter acted from November to December 2018 in the Eastern Cape.
Correct, JP.
And then in 2019, you acted for the first, second, third, and fourth terms, even though from 6 to 17 September 2021, you also acted in the Eastern Cape. So it's 2019, the whole of 2019, right?
Correct,
And
JP.
then in 2021, you acted from the 6th to the 17th of September.
That's correct, JP.
You've also acted in the Gauteng division,
Yes, correct, JP.
and may I place it on record that when first you did, Judge President Mlambo sang your praises. I'm just placing that on record.
Thank you, JP.
And then, has your recent acting stint in Gauteng served to hone your skills as a judicial officer?
Yes, JP, they have. When I was there in the North Gauteng High Court for the first time, it was during the peak of COVID, and the workload was reduced tremendously that time. But this time around, because things are at least normal, it was quite a huge load of work. It has honed my skill. I can say it in this house that in my last week in the North Gauteng High Court, I was doing the opposed motion of about 11 matters, which all proceeded, and I certainly had to pick up all those judgments, which I have already delivered close to 10 of those judgments, and that was only from the 18th of February up to now. Before I went to the Eastern Cape, and when I go to the Eastern Cape, I had to sit on appeals, and where I was also scribe in those matters, some of which I had to deliver extempore. So it did hone my skill, JP. It did.
Yes. If you were to be appointed and had to preside over 6 opposed applications in the Eastern Cape, in light of the fact that you've presided over 11 applications on one day, would you be had to be complaining?
Not at all, JP. In fact, I have said that, look, one in the Eastern Cape is in much more a better, I would say, position in terms of time, as opposed to what I experienced in the North Gauteng High Court. So certainly 6 applications as opposed to 11 all opposed applications is for me a ride on a cloud.
Yes. More on the technical side. Is there a statutory basis for implementing case flow management in appeals?
Not that I'm aware of on appeals that there's a statutory injunction, JP, to be implementing a case flow management.
Rule 37, capital letter A,
Yes.
gives the judge president or head of a court the discretion to extend case flow management to other proceedings beyond civil proceedings. Would that not be a statutory basis for implementing case flow management in appeals?
Yes, JP, I agree. Were that section to be that rule to be extended, surely I think it would cover the issue of case law management on appeal. Certainly,
Yes.
I do.
Yes, in fact, in so many words, it reads
Yes.
as such. It
Yes.
gives the judge president of a particular division the power to issue directives that may culminate in the extension of the application of case flow management, even in appeal proceedings.
Yes, I agree.
Now, which of the judgments you penned demonstrates that you've had exposure in commercial work?
Unfortunately, the judgment that I would use is still a judgment that is in progress or process, which I picked up in the North Gauteng High Court, where it relates to commercial work, where companies are involved. I haven't, in the Eastern Cape Division, dealt with a judgment which would require me to deal with commercial work.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. Premier?
Thank you very much, CJ. Good afternoon, Mr. Nqumse.
Good afternoon, Premier.
Just a quick one from my side, assuming that you have a clue of the current status of that Gqeberha bench, would you, or would your appointment give expression to a balanced demographic picture in Gqeberha from where you are?
Well, if I look at Gqeberha bench at the moment, it is consisting or composed of whites and blacks. It has more males than females. Those are my observations. And certainly, it may therefore be seen as not reflective of the real demographics.
Thank you very much, CJ. Gosport.
Thank you, Premier. I don't see any hand. Let me go to the commissioners attending virtually. Commissioners attending virtually. Is there any commissioner who has a question, who wishes to put a question?
Chief Justice, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mr. Nqumse. I want to take you to the order in the BDVM trading 4CC versus King's Terrace, where you grant an order, and it's on page 201 of the bundle. So just quickly, the question is that order not too vague to execute? It refers to fascinating stuff, the installation of or the restoration of possession of an internet network, related equipment and related structures. So if one just takes those concepts on the enforceability of that, how would one enforce that? The question is which network and which related equipment and which structures?
Just trying to get to the page.
So 201. So the question is, should the possessions that should be restored, the items not be more clearly defined in the order?
The items that I remember that we were dealing with in the BDVM are the network cables that had been dispossessed. And the restoration that was ordered was to restore those network cables that had been dispossessed or that had been removed.
Thanks. Yeah, it just doesn't say network cables, it says network equipment and related structures. So the question is it not too, it's a bit of a vague order. That's the actual question I want to put to you. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you. On the side of commissioners attending virtually, is there anyone else who has a question?
No questions. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Breitenbach.
No questions, CJ.
Thank you, Commissioner Shabangu Mdawe. I take it that there's no other question. I think we have come to the end.
No question from me, CJ.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you have joined us online. Yes. Yes, thank you. We have come to the end of this interview, Mr. Nqumse. I thank you for availing yourself. Do you wish to emphasize 2 or 3 points in 2 or 3 minutes that you particularly wish the commissioners to bear in mind as they consider your candidature, or you feel that all issues have been adequately dealt with?
Not much, CJ, that I can say, except to say that I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege to once again come before this body and for me to share my contribution that I can make to the High Court bench.
Yes. No, thank you very much then, Mr. Nqumse. You are now excused.
Thank you very much, Chief
Thank
Justice.
you.